Thank you very much, and welcome back into the Pendle Suite. You're in exactly the right place if you're looking for an exciting talk by Mira. Just before the break, of course, we had Garrett Graves, all about AI and voice. So now, with a talk that's got a very interesting title, I'm going to pass over to Mira. Please give her a very big ComCon welcome.
Thank you, everyone. Now I'm looking at the hall and I'm wondering, I watched David's presentations and I follow him and I followed his advice on presentations, so I'm going to try to apply some of David's advice here. And one of the first things that I learned from him is that I need to catch your attention from the very beginning. And I need to start with a game. You're a little bit scattered, so this game is going to be weird, but we're going to do it anyway. So, no, don't worry about it. You can stay where you are a little bit, and then just we'll figure it out. So the game that I came up with is I wanted to make sure that we kind of show gratitude to each other and we tell each other good job. And the way I wanted to do it is with something that's actually recent. It's a high five. So I was hoping that you would have someone next to you or behind you who you can high five and scream good job. Maybe Nitan can help me with that. So do you want to try it? Good job. Thank you. That worked better than expected. Actually, if I could offer you one piece of advice, and if you could take something from me, you know that it's not going to be a technical talk, but you can do this with your teams, and it makes a whole difference for someone in your team, and it can be a huge motivator. It's an immediate endorphin releaser. So if you can implement this, you can also do it at home. You can kind of remind each other that you're doing a good job of being alive, for example. Yeah. So good job to me too. If you cannot read the small print, I changed this presentation last minute. And the reason being is that everyone here is talking AI, and I felt like I needed to top my game. I don't know if I succeeded, probably not, but we'll see later. I did some intel in the previous days, and I figured that I'm not the only one in this situation. There's a lot of people who had to change their presentation in the last minute because of all the talks about AI. Now, for me, that is a great thing, and that is a great thing because it shows that we are a very strong community and we are walking in the same direction. When was the last time when this happened? I remember in 2006 when I met David and I met James and I met all the people in the community. We were at the verge of something huge. And that started not so long ago. It was just 17 years ago. I remember that time because my feeling was that I was part of something big and meaningful, and this feeling was unmatched. I was extremely excited, and I feel like this today as well. I had to carry this on my flights to Dallas. The Astricon in 2006 was in Dallas. That's when Mark Spencer was Asterisk. And I had to carry this huge thing to the conference to give the talk, and I was so excited about it. And now look at us. We don't have to carry these things anymore. We're just 17 years later, and hardware gets smaller, and things get more open and accessible, and knowledge gets shared easily. And we have the luxury to dream big and to do big things. So let's dive into it. Usually talks start with self-introduction, but I just want to talk a little bit about you. You're among the very few people around the world who know how communications work. And this is a great responsibility. And with great responsibility come great opportunities. I had an amazing well, actually not one, but many amazing, valuable conversations in the social breaks with people. As soon as I landed and I got here, we started talking about inclusion, we started talking about adoption of technology, we discussed that we're playing with AI, and then I had to change my presentation. And so I saw some amazing art with Midjourney. Alex showed me some things he did with James Bodie's face. And we seem to all be talking about it. Jeff Pulver took us to mindfulness and self-appreciation and realization and gave us some perspective. And what I took from this talk and really hit home for me is that we do not have time to waste. And according to me, time is the most precious thing and generally the most expensive thing probably, because it doesn't have a price. You cannot create or generate time. The only thing you can do with time is save it. And for me, if you ask me, the whole purpose of progress, and especially technological progress, is to help us save time. And it's in our nature to try and save it for meaningful things. For example, spending more time with our family, or spending more time with our friends, or working on this project that is firing us up. And as you can tell already, I am among the supporters of progress, and I believe that it can impact us in positive ways. Of course, I'm not disregarding the dangers. And now that I started talking about myself, a little bit about me, I like, that's a very philosophical question. And actually, I wanted to get inspiration on people, on their journey to finding themselves, and what I did was I Googled people finding themselves, and Google didn't understand, or I didn't write the prompt properly, so what it did was it spit out a result for people frantically searching their names in Google called ego search. Now, I'm not brave enough to do an ego search, but I did ask ChatGPT who I was, and I asked, who is Mira Georgieva, this is how my name is pronounced, from Zoiper and Banafo, and it told me that I'm not famous enough. I want to change that. So I'm 39 years old. Our neocortex stopped developing in our mid-20s, which means that I have spent my conscious life with Zoiper. I spent 17 years, which is over 40% of my time being alive with Zoiper and being exposed to what we're all doing here. And recently, we started this project, Banafo. I'll talk about it a little bit. I am missing the technical data set, unlike yourselves, you're technical people here, I am not. However, I share the passion about AI with you. And I am also involved in doing things with AI. Banafo. There are 3 aspects of Banafo, and I'm sorry I missed the previous talk, but I was nervous about my talk, so I couldn't be here. I couldn't listen to it, but Banafo, I heard your questions, and I was able to be here for the Q&A session, and this is exactly what Banafo does. So there are 3 aspects of Banafo. There's Banafo AI, which is the speech-to-text APIs, and you can think of them as alternatives to Google's and Microsoft Cloud APIs. We currently offer only offline speech-to-text there, but I will later show you very low latency speech-to-text as well. We have some text-to-speech as well, but we need time to market that. Then we have banafo.com, which is practically a complete service. It comes with the interface, and you can record, transcribe, and summarize any meetings, and you can access them on banafo.com and do all kinds of things about it. And then the cool stuff, the really cool stuff, and the Q&A was about it, and I wanted to answer some questions, but I'll answer them now, is we have self-hosted models, and two aspects to the self-hosted models. The cooler side for me is the client side, running locally in the browser without any server component, and I will possibly demonstrate it to you if you want to see it. It can, for example, be used with WebRTC applications. The other component is for servers, for those who want to do chatbots or visual voicemail. We're 10 times cheaper than Google, and we're 20 times faster and faster than Whisper's best model. We train our own models. We do not hallucinate. We do very well with made-up words and difficult names. And well, overall, we have better models. And don't take my word for it. Play with it. We also offer streaming speech to text. And this is not something trivial to do. It is an interesting thing to do. It is not trivial to do. It took us 3 years to get where we are right now, and hundreds of thousands of euros. It also comes with a bunch of setbacks, and I'll just talk a little bit generally about some of them not related to Banafo. Some fears are more abstract, like will machines develop sentiment and become self-aware? Are we going to reach technological singularity? Other fears are more practical and rational, like would we lose our jobs to machines? Yeah. It's the first guy who lost his job to machine. As you already know, I am among the defenders. So people who defend AI say that during the first industrial revolution, there was also fear that people will lose their jobs and everybody will be unemployed. And then they emphasize on the positive impact, which is efficiency. The adoption of AI creates completely new jobs, and other jobs will adapt. For example, with the increased interest in ChatGPT, now there are people among us, and I saw in the previous talks that there are people who create interfaces around ChatGPT and specialize in prompts, for example. It is an art form now in a creative process to play with generative AI. I read something very interesting the other day in an article in a startup magazine here in the UK, that AI can aid the transition to a 4-day working week. And it is exactly because of the increased efficiency, which results in lower costs and higher gains for us. AI can replace predictive work and work that requires mental labor, but it goes much deeper than that. Where is telecom and all that? On one side, there's the customer-facing service enhancement, let's call it that way, and added value. And on the other side, there is internal business optimization. When it comes to added value to the customer, the telecom's role has been shifting. Traditional services are no longer sufficient, even for the simplest user, and they're not a differentiator anymore. I had a very nice talk during dinner yesterday with some of you, and we were concerned on our table that voice is practically doomed. So I'm going to transition this talk here right now, and I want to check that. You can just raise your hand by answering the question. How many of you had a voice call today? Only voice? 3 people. Look around. How many of these calls were cell calls over the cell network? 2, okay. How many of you had a video call? 1 person. 1. In general, how many of you attend online meetings at work? Yeah, turn around, everyone. Again, how many of you have adopted some form of AI in their business? Again, almost everybody. Yeah, that really makes a good point. Now, because of that, again, I had to change my presentation. I just want to look through the applications of AI and Telecom. Possibly you can help me with that afterwards during the Q&A session, and you can tell me how you're applying it in your business. We already spoke about that on ComCon. There were a lot of speeches related to this. So in terms of software, I understood that most of you are using AI such as Codex or Copilot in ChatGPT to do code reviews or generate code. ChatGPT can actually create small applications. We tested it. Some of them work properly. Funny, now that I think about it, it took artificial intelligence to teach us to finally write proper specifications. AI can analyze a big amount of historic data and create patterns and practically directly prevent issues that are going to occur, which is why it is good for network load forecasting. For example, it can predict degradation of the network quality due to congestion, and it can dynamically allocate resources to optimize the performance. Another application is predictive maintenance. This hits home because we had a situation in the office I'll tell you about. It can deliver predictive hardware maintenance based on data from the hardware sensors. It can predict many things that are specific for the specific hardware. For example, a hard disk or a router. Such specific things could be the brand of the hardware, the year of production, memory, fans activity, temperature, usage. It can determine whether this hard disk or router is going to die soon, and it can give indication for replacing it prior to the issue occurring. It can also give indication for a complete bad batch. We had this in the office, and luckily we weren't in production at that time. We had a complete bad SSD batch that died, and we could have used this ability to predict it and fix the issue. Disruption of service is a serious thing in telecom, and AI can ensure continuity and reliability and practically no downtime. The result is tremendous reduction in cost, including customer support costs. Another application is network planning. I know nothing about antenna optimization or the other things I'm going to talk about. I was hoping that James was here so that he could help me, but maybe you know more. Network planning and deployment can be well planned with AI and based on factors such as population density and the terrain and previous infrastructure. It can recommend optimal locations for the towers and stations. And this reduces deployment costs and ensures maximum coverage. Otherwise, it will take a lot of resources to determine that. Spam calls, robocalls, and scams. I'm afraid to talk about this topic, but again, AI can help detect anomalies on the network and suspicious activities and unexpected behaviors. I will give you an example of an unexpected behavior just because it's funny. It's not very relevant to this, but one of our mutual friends, you probably have him on Facebook, had his card stolen. And the way AI was triggered to show that the card was stolen was the card wasn't used to pay for his private jet rides, but, you know who I'm talking about, it was used to buy a bus ticket. So it was triggered, and they were able to detect the stolen card. I'm not familiar how possible it is to clone a SIM card, but I put it in the presentation just because hypothetically it sounds cool. AI can be used to trigger warnings in case of weird SIM card activity. Maybe you can correct me afterwards or tell me about it. I'm quite interested. AI can be used by telecoms to detect calls from unknown call centers, for example, trying to pretend to be a bank with a fake telephone number. Such scam protection is generally not the responsibility of the telecom. However, it can add huge value to the public, according to me. And as a side effect, it has a great selling point. I have relatives who were scammed, who have fallen victim of scams, and sometimes they're too fragile to face the emotional damage and shame, especially among the elderly. And actually, we often talk about this during such conferences. We talk that here we are experienced, we know what to do when such things happen, and still some scams are so good that we are very close to falling for them. Imagine your elderly having to deal with it. AI can use factors such as the origination of the call, the original network it came from, the call duration, who is being called, when, to assist in detecting such scam calls. Another thing that I spoke yesterday about with Nitsan was that models can be trained to detect whether a call with generated voice, robocalls, or real person, and it can prevent a lot of things like identity theft. And I have an example here as well. I have a friend who runs a business, and her voice was cloned. And it was used to call the office administration to request a bank wire. Luckily, you know, the human factor worked there, but imagine that you hit a new employee, for example, or someone who cannot determine that it's not a real call. If a telecom operator can trigger a warning and flag a call as a robotic voice, it is a great added value to the customer. Virtual agents is something very interesting to me because the reason it's interesting for me is that companies who offer virtual agents, it's a clone of a person, and in combination with ChatGPT, it can practically serve as a customer agent. They only need a couple of minutes of voice and video data to create the agent. And it's scary as well. This solves a scalability problem, and such chatbots and virtual agents can serve a large amount of customers and the customer requests simultaneously at the same time. It can also free up space for your real human resources to do something meaningful with their time and something more interesting. Call center specific things, they're already applied, and I already spoke about them on other conferences, but you're also in the business, you probably know them. Is the skill-based routing, for example. AI can be used to connect customers to the most suitable agent. Then there's automatic creation of tickets and actually answers to tickets. AI can be used to analyze patterns in behavior and provide ready solutions and resolutions to repetitive requests. There's also sentiment analysis and predictive analysis. It can analyze customer interactions to identify trends and issues, and it can be used to predict the customer's intent. For example, AI can determine whether the customer is going to make a purchase or not, and how likely the customer is going to make the purchase. There is also personalized offering. AI is currently used to increase personalization in it based on customer behavior across different mediums. There is also live feedback on the agents, and it's a very wide topic. It is used to provide feedback, for example, to trigger specific warnings when the agent says a specific word, or when the agent misses to say a specific word or a specific warning to the customers, and can provide live guidance. Voice recognition and speech analytics are used for this to analyze the conversation in real time. The other thing I find very interesting is loss of users. Nobody wants to suffer that. AI can be used to detect loss of specific user group, for example, in specific geographical areas or from a specific age group. For example, it can determine if an age group in a specific area drops out as a customer because TikTok is not working on this network for whatever reason. When we're talking about losses, cut of losses is something that hits home. While we're talking about it, AI can detect operational issues that result in losses and can help with business intelligence. It can save money on resource leakage and even detect revenue optimization opportunities. I don't want to go into this. Since marketing is all data, we can just start to imagine and understand that AI is, of course, widely used in marketing, and it will continue to be. This is already not telecom specific, but it's part of the optimizations and offering, but there is more. We can do unthinkable things. The thing that we imagine right now is using Banafo and ChatGPT, for example, or any other outlet to record your complete day and all your interactions, your live interactions and your online interactions. And then AI can take care of practically all of your needs. It can take notes, it can add things to your calendar, it can make a summary of your day, give you proper practical guidance and information. We will eventually end up in a situation where my chatbot will be talking to your chatbot to arrange our interaction. The possibilities are endless, and AI will evolve and change, and I'm here for it. And from what I understood from watching your talks and your participation, you're here for it as well. My talk is done. However, I promise that you can check out Banafo streaming models. You can check them on streamingasrdemo.banafo.com. Bear in mind that this one is not protected, which means that the faster you go to the link, the better quality you're going to achieve. If you want to try it out without the limitations of the public link that we released, please talk to me. I'll give you a username and password to try it somewhere else without limitations. Thank you. We have 13 minutes.
Thank you, Mira. Are you open to some Q&A activity?
Yes.
I think it sounded like you wanted it to be a kind of two-way thing.
I do, yes. However, a disclaimer, I will not be able to answer your technical questions. I might need to check with my team.
And you were also interested in how people are using AI in their businesses.
Very interested.
There's Sam, our first customer. There you go.
Oh, I have 3 pairs of socks because people stole the rest, but I have 3 pairs to give, and you get 1.
So it's kind of two-part related. You're talking about like AI, the piece at the end about like planning your day, and it can just see things and put things in your calendar. But to me, at least personally, that maybe I'm a control freak. I choose what goes on my calendar. I get really annoyed that somebody sends me an invite and it's automatically added to my calendar before I've even accepted it. It's like no, my calendar. So do you not think that like the human, some of the AI side, like the human nature of wanting to control AI being too automatic actually could be negative for people from an experience? And then kind of related to that, there's the whole like black box thing as well, that even if we let it do stuff, we don't know why it's done that decision, and like people want that sort of transparency in order to trust the technology.
Yes, I completely understand your point, but for me it's not about the decision making, it's about efficiency. And since I started using search software for my meetings, I stopped thinking about the things that I had to manually do around the meetings. Sometimes I'm in the operations in the office, which means that I have back-to-back meetings throughout the complete day. I meet with people non-stop, constantly to resolve issues. And sometimes I jump from a legal call into some HR call about a stupid problem like a light is annoying one of the developers because you prefer no light whatsoever for whatever reason. And then I need to jump in another problem, which is some unhappy customer or whatever I have to do with Zoiber. I rarely remember what was happening in my previous meeting, and it's a huge load on me. And if I don't use such enhancement, I need to take notes, then I lose the note. And sometimes I don't have the means to take a note because I'm driving right now or I'm doing something else. So for me, it's the fact that it can transcribe my meeting and it can give me a summary of my meeting and it can kind of put things in my calendar is a huge value.
You still kind of have that. There's definitely what you choose, what you want it to do. There's an element. My point is, I think there's an element of control and not letting. Otherwise, you end up going to the logical extreme of you working for the AI. It can feel a bit like, kind of, you know, my bot has told me to go. I've got to go and do this. Why am I going to do this? Or yeah, it just feels like you'd lose that.
It sounds like there's an opportunity for you, Sam, to train your AI to be more like you, and to reject the meetings that you would want to reject.
Yes.
Ultimately. Okay, thank you for that. There's
Socks.
Rob at the back next. Oh yes, socks. Free socks. Go ahead, Rob.
I really loved your model of, you know, my AI going and negotiating with the call center AI to get me an outcome without wasting my time. How realistic do you think that is, in that is AI ever going to be on the side of the individual and the consumer rather than the large organizations that have put forth the capital to cause this stuff to exist? I remember in the early days of the internet, we said, this internet thing is fantastic, it'll be a great democratizing force, and that isn't really the way it turned out. So is AI going to be any different?
I think that nothing can replace your personal intelligence. So if you can determine right now when someone and when a human being is trying to sell you something, you should be able to determine the same if a robot is trying to sell you something. So it really depends on the individual. I think nothing can replace your thinking. And to come back to
let them fight for now and then come back and your AI can go, I wouldn't bother, mate, you're not going to get anywhere.
It could, as long as the company that wrote the call center AI didn't also write my AI, and it was in their commercial interest to let the call center win, right?
Yeah, indeed. And you could end up with an AI version of CSMA CD, you know, if they get into a blockage and have to... anyway, who's the next customer for Mira's socks? Okay, it looks like one pair may survive, Mira. Did you give Rob a pair of socks?
yes,
For,
and there's one.
I will be the sock ambassador for you. There you go. Oh, a right-handed one as well. Okay, we have got time for one or two more questions, or you can be released into the lunch break early. It looks like people want to be released, Mira. So, Mira, thank you. Let's give Mira a big thank you.
Thank you.
And Mira is going to be around if you want to talk to her personally. In the meantime, let me tell you that Dave, who's loitering at the back there, look, he's like a coiled spring, ready for action, because he's going to be in this very room at 2 p.m., all about building voice bots with Jambone. So you don't really want to miss that. You want to make sure you're here bang on 2 o'clock. But I hope you have a great lunch break, and we'll see you back here later. Oh, thank you very much.